Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby here. 24 hours ago, Wargaming announced that they're going to be introducing Tier 10 mediums and Tier 10 tank destroyers into the game in the future. And first, a disclaimer that this is all my opinion, and images have been taken from the Wargaming homepage. I will provide a link in the description to the news update. And also, as Wargaming said, that all of this is subject to change and speculation. I'm just taking a look at it to see if we can predict anything, so we know what to grind for and maybe discuss and make sure that the tanks get shaped in a way that we feel is good for the game. So all that Wargaming have really released so far are the guns that these tanks are going to have. So here we see the new Tier 10 end of tree for the Russian medium line. It is the T62A, and Wargaming have said it's going to have the 100mm D54 TC gun. So what I'm showing here is the gun that's on the T54, which is the Tier 9 Russian medium. So we can expect that it's going to be upgraded in some way. Now I'm theory crafting as to how they're going to upgrade the guns on the Tier 9 medium tanks when they go to Tier 10 without making them overpowered. I don't think there's going to be much of a penetration increase. I think that if they do that, then they're just going to be faster heavy tanks. I think that they might give it a rate of fire increase, they might give it a slight aim time and accuracy increase. And I think those are going to be the big changes that happen when they go to Tier 10. However, I could be completely wrong. They might increase the armor penetration a lot. However, if they do this, then they mitigate the one strength that the Tier 10 heavy tanks would have left. And I feel that a change like this would be detrimental to the balance of the game. I think the Tier 9 mediums are currently a very powerful tank in their own right, and I think that balancing the parameters such as rate of fire, aim time, and the accuracy would be good without giving them too much more penetration than they already have. So moving on, now we're going to look at what will be the Tier 10 German medium tank, the E50 Alfs M. So in a recent question and answer session on the Russian forums, one of the mods has hinted that the Tier 10 E50 Alfs M will have rear mounted transmission and also that the turret will be shifted forward. Now this was quite a significant issue with the original E50 and the changes that are being made in 7.4, where the engines of the E75 and the E50 are being moved to the front. For everyone who has shot a low in the lower front plate and set it on fire, you will realise that this should be quite a significant nerf. However, this will be revoked when the E50 Alfs M becomes Tier 10, and the new position of the turret should allow it to not have to stick as much of the front of its tank out around corners when it wants to take a shot. This will change the playstyle of the E50. Maybe it'll become a bit of a less specialist sniper and a heavy beast and more of an all-round medium tank. We may also see changes to its rate of fire. So now moving on to one of my favourite tanks at Tier 9, the Patton, and its upgraded version, the M48A1 Patton 3. Now firstly let's take a look at the current Patton guns, because that for me is the highlight of the tank. There we can see the 105mm with its amazing rate of fire with the great alpha damage. However, poor accuracy with pretty good aim time. Then we can see one of the relic guns, the 90mm that's used on the Pershing. And then interestingly, this sort of weird gun that you can use on the Patton that has no purpose, as it's got worse penetration and worse accuracy than the Pershing gun. However, the reason why I highlight this is because the gun that they're quoting that the Patton is going to be able to use is the M41, which is a 90mm gun, and the 105mm gun, the M68. So, what are we going to see change-wise to these guns? Again, I don't recommend that the penetration is increased. We shouldn't have these tanks be able to penetrate heavy tanks frontally. Otherwise, there's no point in playing a heavy tank when these tanks go to Tier 10, unless they don't increase the HP as much as I think they will. I think that the medium tanks, the health should go to about the 2000 range. So that means that a heavy tank might only have 400 or even 200 health points on a medium tank on a tier 10. So that means they have to have advantages in other places. One area which I think they could improve the pattern is its top speed. Maybe the pattern 3 will have a top speed increase to match the T54 or the E50. Maybe they'll think about increasing its mobility even more, which would be fantastic. There's lots of room for specialization within the pattern, and it's an exciting prospect as to what they're going to do with this tank. So, changes for the French medium line. All of the current French tanks that are tier 5 and higher are being shifted up, and in its place at tier 5 is this tank. The light tank ELC AMX will be added as a new tier 5 vehicle. It will have a 90mm and a 75mm gun option. And so at tier 10, that's right, you're going to see the Bat Chat. So how are they going to change the Bat Chat? They're probably going to increase its health. They're also giving it a new 105mm gun, the CN-105-57. I don't think its mobility really needs changing. It's one of the most maneuverable tanks in the game, which has a very deadly edge to it. And I think with its new 105mm it should perform very well at tier 10. Next up, looking at the tank destroyers, let's see what's going to be the tier 10 Soviet tank destroyer. It's going to be the Object 268, and it's going to have a 152mm M64 gun. So it's going to have the same caliber as the gun that's used on the Object. What we're likely to see is maybe increased rate of fire, increased accuracy, increased aim time, all those good things. But let's just take a look for a second the armor of this tank. Whereas for our tier 10 mediums, they're not really different tanks, they're just improvements on the current tier 9 tanks. This tank is completely different. The angled effect on the armor is simply incredible. I should think that when you're completely front on to this target, there's going to be a very high chance that you're going to bounce any round in the game. However, as we can see here from the side on, that armor should be fairly flat on the top and provide excellent opportunity for penetration. So overall, this looks very much like it's going to play like an IS-7, armor-wise. So you've got to be really facing your target to be able to get your opportunity, rather than an IS-4, where you're best off being 45 degrees. Although it's hard to tell from the image, we can see that there could be quite a bad lower front plate on this tank. Could this be similar to the IS-8? Let's hope not, because we know that tier 6 tanks can penetrate the IS-8's front. Now we move on to one of the tanks I'm most excited about, the Jagdpanzer E100, which will have a 17cm Pak 45 gun. This thing looks like a beast. It's basically what looks like a Jagdtiger turret on top of an E100. Now the gun that I'm showing here is a 17cm gun that's currently in the game. It's the stock GW Tiger gun. Now the reason why I'm showing this is because I believe this could be a good indicator of what we're going to see that the HE ammo looks like on this tank. It's going to be the biggest gun in the game that's not on an SPG. And although we can't load armor penetrating rounds using the stock GW Tiger gun, the way that the AP rounds work on most of the SPGs is they do roughly about 3/4 of the damage that the HE ammo does. So if this is the case with the E100 Jagdpanzer, then the AP ammo should do about 1125 average damage. And then whatever they make the penetration on this tank and the rate of fire is completely up for debate. I think they might make the armor penetration of this tank the downside, just like what the E100 was, to try and balance it. However, I'm really looking forward to using this tank. If its HE ammo is anything like what I think it might be, then this thing is going to be able to absolutely blitz French and American tanks. American tanks in the side, in the rear, and French tanks in the turret. If you get a full penetration off, then you're looking like you're going to take 60% off a tier 10 tank with this beast. Reload time wise, maybe we're going to be able to look at a realistic reload in game of maybe 25 seconds to make this balanced, if this is the kind of damage that the tank is going to have. Next, let's move along to the American tank destroyers. Now we are looking at what's going to be the T10 E3. Now this is going to be what follows on from the T95, and Wargaming have already said that it's going to have the same gun that the T30 and the T95 already have. So what does this mean? They're going to probably have to increase the accuracy a bit, increase the aim time, maybe they'll only increase the rate of fire. All we know is that this tank is going to be rather deadly from the front. It looks like it's going to have very few weak points, like the T95. This version of the T10 does not have a turnable turret. However, moving on to the T10 E4, which is going to be the follow-up to the T30, is going to have a turnable turret. However, Wargaming have introduced a particularly unique feature, which is a partially rotating turret. Apparently this tank is only going to be able to turn its turret 180 degrees. It's going to have the same armament as the T10 E3, so it's going to have a 750 damage alpha gun, the same as what's on the T30 and the T95 at the moment. I think personally that this could be one of the most interesting tanks in the game. I love high alpha damage. I love the fact that it's going to have a nice turning turret. If this is anything like the T30 with better frontal armor like on a T10, I think personally this is going to be one of my favourite tanks in the game. So now looking at our last tank, the AMX-50 Foch. I've got the pronunciation right, I hope this time. Sorry about that in my last video, guys. Now what's interesting about this tank is currently it's going to be at tier 9, however for a short time until they release their tier 10 tank destroyers, and then they're going to move it up to tier 10. However, with this change they're going to turn it into a real unique prospect because they're going to add a 3-shell autoloader to this tank, along with the fact that according to the Russian translation, thanks to Wall on the forums for this, it's going to have a 155mm cannon like the T30 and the T95. Whether they'll keep the accuracy or the aim time or even the alpha damage is another thing, or maybe they'll just make it so this tank has like a minute or 90 seconds reload to compensate for the huge amount of damage that it's going to be able to do. It's totally up there. This is a huge amount of excitement for me, what this tank is going to be capable of, and it adds a new dimension to the game. What's going to be very interesting is that currently the AMX-50 does not have very good armor in my opinion for a tier 9 tank, and I think at tier 10 this is going to be even worse. So maybe this tank will be a glass cannon. It'll be fast if it's still got the 50km/h top speed, but maybe with the autoloader it'll be able to do a lot of damage, but maybe it'll be one of the lowest health tank destroyers in the game with the weakest armor. So when can we expect these changes to take place? Well, a recent Q&A session on the Russian forums has indicated that this will most likely be coming in patch 7.5, which is indicated for release in July. So thanks a lot for watching my video, guys. I hope you realise this is all speculation and this is me basically trying to infer what these tanks might be like. Please give me your opinions on what tanks you're most excited for, if you think I've made any really big mistakes in my speculation, and yeah, let's just have a good discussion as to what this is going to be like for the game. I'd like to give a shout out to a website that I follow, whatarmory.com. They provide some really good content with investigations into the strengths of different armors. The reports are really well written, and I've put a link in the description below if you want to check them out. So if you've enjoyed this video, please show it by giving it a like at the bottom and share it with your friends, and add to the favourites if you feel so inclined. If you haven't already, please think about subscribing to this channel so I can provide you with updates as regularly as they come out. Thanks a lot again for watching my video, guys, and to all my new subscribers. Look out for my upcoming streams on Twitch TV, and good luck on the battlefield.